Om Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sadashiva Samarambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Paryantam, Vande Guru Paramparam. Krishnaya Vasudevaya, Haraye Paramatmane, Pranatah Kleshanashaya, Govindaya Namo Namaha. Mukhaṁ karoti vācālam pangum langayate girim yatkripartamaham vande paramanandamadhavam. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Nutyorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sahanavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Namaste once again. I welcome you all to this evening session. The subject of today's lecture for this evening session is Advaita for Stress Management, and it is being taken by Neema Majmudar. Neema Majmudar has a unique combination of personal background, international exposure, education, and depth of spiritual knowledge, which makes her an inspiring writer and teacher of Indian philosophy. She has studied Indian philosophy with Swami Dayananda Saraswati Ji, a well-known contemporary teacher of Advaita Vedanta non-duality in the tradition of Adi Shankaracharya and a scholar in Sanskrit. In addition to the traditional Vedic studies, Neema Majmudar has a number of years of experience as a professional with United Nations in the field of economic and social development in New York, Thailand, and Fiji. She has also she also has master's degree in international affairs from Columbia University, New York. Since 1999, Neema Majmudar has been taking conferences, conducting seminars, and retreats across the world in the domain of personal development and philosophy. The seminars and the retreats she conducts with her husband, Surya Kahora, incorporate the concept of Indian philosophy with Western psychology, ethics, physics, neurobiology, and management. These activities are aimed for guiding the individuals and leaders of various organizations to be more objective, dynamic, compassionate, and in an increasingly interconnected and complex world. They have created a bilingual website in French and English. The website's address is Wisdom of Rishis, wisdom as is wisdom, all small letters, of OF RISHIS, wisdom of Rishis, all small letters.com, which explains in modern style the vision of the traditional teachings of Advaita Vedanta with numerous links to articles and videos of their talks. She and her husband have co-authored the book Living the Vision of Oneness, which expounds the way in which the vision of Bhagavad Gita and Vedas can be utilized in daily life. Recently, Neema and her students, Nandini and Saloni, have published a beautifully illustrated book titled Finding Meaning in the Life with the Bhagavad Gita. This book gives the profound insights into the teachings of Lord Sri Krishna by explaining and analyzing and elaborating on 45 key verses of Bhagavad Gita, especially chosen for their logic, wisdom, and practicality. I'm sorry. Over to you, Neema ji.
Thank you very much, Sanjeev. Thank you, Indica Moksha, for calling me for this festival. Every year, I really look forward to come and share my views on this amazing platform. So today's topic is about, how does Advaita help us in stress management? So before we actually go into, how Advaita helps for stress management, we need to understand what produces stress, right? Because unless we understand what are the mechanisms, then it's very difficult to address how the stress can be managed. So the first thing we have to understand is we think that the external situations produce stress, right? Generally, what happens is you live life and many different situations come to you. Some situations are in keeping with what you are looking for. So it doesn't really pose any problem, and in fact, you feel happy. But there are some situations which are not at all what you had expected. So that can create some disturbance, there are some challenges. You are surprised, and some of these challenging situations with your own buddhi, with your own intellect and with your own understanding and your own experience, you're able to handle, you're able to deal with. But then there are others who totally, throw you off, and you enter into what we call stress. And that stress is one name. And what actually happens is that, you enter self-doubt, you become inefficient. Sometimes stress shows up in your body. You are unable to sleep at night, or you are distracted all the time. So this is how the stress manifests in our life, and it doesn't make us live with certain clarity, with a focus, it doesn't allow us to move forward in life in the direction that we want to go. We just get a little distracted and we go all over the place. So if we think that this stress is produced by external situations, this is what we generally think, because it's our inability to deal with certain situation which produces stress, be it your family issues or be it your career issues. So what we try to do is we try to fix everything, at work or in your family. We try to get everybody to behave the way we want, or in our work environment, everybody to follow what we think is good for the company that we are working for. But actually, to our surprise, what happens is that neither the family members nor the people at work, be it your colleagues or your bosses or whoever, they don't always behave as you want. So what it does is it increases our stress level, and we try to keep fixing it. But in the process of fixing, actually, we accumulate more stress because, we can't fix things as we want. And then we feel a little lost as to what to do, right? Let's first look at, the whole dynamic of the stress is produced as we think by others. But actually, it is produced by how we process information. External situations are just external situations, right? And people don't have to behave as you want them to behave. And situations don't have to happen as you want them to happen. So, it's not the external world, but your internal processing or inability to process what is outside with a certain maturity, with certain centeredness or certain clarity, which produces stress. So let's little bit look into what are these internal processing errors that we make. So we don't just make random errors. They fall in many different categories. So I just wanted to highlight a few things that we do in our internal processing, which makes those external situations overwhelming for us. So I don't want to spend too much time, but I do want to give you certain insight into what happens to us. So they are called, in our Shastra, they are called Shobhanadhyasa. What is Shobhanadhyasa? Your own superimposition on external situations. So there is some coloring which takes place, and that doesn't allow you to be in touch with what is. You color it and you see it the way your mind reports it, and your responses are in keeping with how your mind reports it. You don't even know that you are actually superimposing things, and in fact, not only your superimpositions create your responses, but they also create your emotions, right? So based on what you understand, you go through your emotional life. And if those emotions are disturbing emotions, that further increases stress. So let's look at some of these internal processing errors that we make and types of errors that we make. So one of the very common thing that we all do is overgeneralization. So what is overgeneralization? I'll very quickly go through it. I don't want to spend too much time. Um, Overgeneralization means that suppose one day in school, you had to, stand up and recite a poem in front of everyone. And somehow, just at that critical moment, you had worked really hard, but at that moment, you forgot the lines, and everybody started laughing at you. So, and you felt really ashamed, right? So that is one experience. But now, what is overgeneralization? You tell yourself that I am a very bad speaker. I'm not able to stand in front of the audience, and people will laugh at me. So what next time you have to speak, this has become that overgeneralization. Instead of telling one time I made a mistake, now that becomes your reality, that you say I'm going to be always like that. And that produces tremendous stress because next time you have to stand in front of the students, if the mind believes that you will never be able to do it, definitely you will experience extreme stress. So that's one form of, internal processing error that we do, but we do other types of errors too. The other is catastrophizing. And what is catastrophizing? That one time you did not get a promotion at work, and you exaggerate it completely, and you say my whole career is doomed forever. So and how will I show my face to all my colleagues who were thinking that I will get a promotion now? How will people look at me, and my future is gone? So that means one event, but the way you process it, it's exaggerated. So you make it a catastrophe where actually it's just one event. Then the third one is filtering, right? So suppose you had a conversation with your spouse, and that there was some issue, and that person gave feedback to you, and the person said few good things, that you were really good here, but then here I found some problem, and I didn't like this response. So the other person said multiple things. Some of them were good, and some of them were not so good. And, but what is filtering? That after the conversation is over, you only pay attention to all the things that that person said, which seemed like criticism for you. So at the end of the conversation, you filter the whole. There was a conversation which had many, many different aspects, but you only hold on to two or three things. And then you start believing that, oh, this person doesn't like me, doesn't approve, is constantly criticizing me, and, doesn't respect me enough. So that is called filtering. And that also then obviously produces a lot of stress, right? And finally, what I want to talk about is we all also have another type of distortion or internal processing error, which is called all or nothing thinking. And that all or nothing thinking is that happens to many people, that they tell me this, that they were best friends with somebody, then that person did something and it hurt them, and as it hurt them, right, they completely cut off that relationship. That is called all or nothing. Either you're my best friend, but if there is any problem, and if I feel that you kind of violated some rules of a close relationship, then I'm going to I have nothing to do with you. So this is this extreme black and white, and all or nothing thinking, which produces again a lot of stress for us, because and it makes our relationships volatile, and your own processing makes like, oh, that person, how could my best friend do this to me? And that increases your stress level. So and now all these errors in your own internal processing has produced stress, but and not only it has produced stress, but it has also produced corresponding emotions, right? Overgeneralizing can create fear. All or nothing can create hatred towards somebody, and catastrophizing can create fear and paranoia, right? So not only we make errors and we go through stress, but we also go through multiple emotional traumas in some ways, when because of, and we think it is happening from what is happening outside. Of course, partly it can be true. It's not like nothing is happening outside, but a large amount of it is what your Shobhanadhyasa, your internal processing errors, which has exaggerated the whole thing. And this particular process of Shobhanadhyasa in Bhagavad Gita, it is talked about as raga and dvesha. So what is raga and dvesha? So we look at the world not through, no, as it is, we look at it through our own lens. So some things become extremely important for us, and we want to cling on to it, and we can't do without it, and we are not able to manage if those things don't happen for us. And dvesha is some people we hate and we don't want anything to do with them. And if we are stuck with them, it produces a lot of stress and a lot of discomfort with us. So it's not the people, it's not, but it's your raga dvesha, which is your addition to what you attribute to them, which produces stress. So this particular, how do these raga dveshas work is explained beautifully in Bhagavad Gita verse. So let's understand what happens to us, because as we understand what happens to us, then we can undo it, right? So it's equally important to understand how our mind works. So in chapter 2, verse 62 and 63, Lord Krishna explains the entire process of how the mind goes off the tangent. So I will read those verses and I will explain the meaning. So, ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः सङ्गस्तेषुपजायते सङ्गात् सञ्जायते कामः कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशः बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. So this is the whole process. He says, dhyato vishayan pumsaha. So as we live in this world, our senses come in touch with a lot of objects. Now, vishayan is objects, but objects can be just objects, like uh, gold or diamonds or whatever, right? Homes or it can be objects, or it can be a person, right? So this person, somebody you love very much, or somebody you cannot stand. So Vishaya can mean an object, it can mean a person, and it can also mean a situation. Situation means a given situation that you're looking for, which is a promotion or a vacation or whatever, right? So now, as senses come in touch with objects, people, and different situations, what happens is lot of things come to our senses, but we don't pay attention to everything. But only some catch our attention. And those different things which catch our attention, what do we do? Dhyayato vishayantum saha. They occupy our mind, and our mind repeats those experiences mentally. And as it keeps repeating those experiences, pleasant and unpleasant, both, what sangasteshu pajayate. So what happens is there is a certain, if it's a one-time thought or a one-time, thinking, it doesn't pose any problem, but we stay with it and we keep repeating it. And because of that repeating, what happens? Sangasteshu pajayate. So what we begin to there is a certain attachment bond to that object, right? And now let's look at objects that we like, right? It can be also applied to things that we don't like, but for ease of analysis, we can just look at something caught your attention. Now you keep repeating in your mind, and as you keep repeating in your mind, what happens is you create a story. And what is that story? Oh, without this object, I'm incomplete. Without this object, whether it's a person, situation, or object, right? And that's given. I will, I am incomplete. I am nobody. I'm a failure. Or people will think that, I'm not successful. So this is what we call attachment. Attachment means now not only we like it, but we build on it. We build on it, and our own whole well-being begins to depend upon that, that object coming to us, and without which we see ourselves as incomplete, without which we see ourselves as losing out, majorly. So that is called Sangha. Attachment means that it is absolutely essential for your well-being and your self-image to be good. Okay. Now, Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha. Then, when you have attributed such an importance to that object, then you absolutely must have it at any cost. So that is, because it is detrimental to your well-being. It's not just an object, but now your whole being and your well-being gets connected to that object. So kama means it creates a pressure in you. And what is that pressure? I absolutely must have it. Kamat krodaha abhijayate. Now, the desires, how do they lead to? What Lord Krishna says is they lead to anger. How does desire lead to anger? Because not every desire is fulfilled. So you may desire it, and you may really want it, and you may think that I need it for my well-being, but there is no rule that you will get it. So sangat sanjayate kamaha, and if you don't get what you want, what happens is krodaha. Krodaha abhijayate. There is anger which comes. And that anger is, it's interesting that anger could be towards one person who you think did not allow you to get the object that you want. Or it can be directed towards the world. There are many people who say the world is unfair, the world is full of suffering, the world is random. Good people suffer, and all the people who are adharmic people, they get ahead. So then your anger is not projected towards one person. You generalize, and then what? You're angry with everyone. So in general, you become the person who is non-trusting and skeptical and cynical as a person, right? And imagine your stress levels, right? What happens when your mind is creating all this? Then also, some people I have seen that they are also angry, right? Kamat krodhaha abhijayate. They are also angry with Ishvara. And what they say is, I've been such a good person, and I have really been very religious, and I have been, regularly going to the temple and offering, and I do my prayers regularly. But look, if something happens, which is a little bit of the intense event, then they said, but how can Ishvara, do this to me? And so many people, as they go through major business losses or break up in relationships, or they lose somebody very who they love very much, they are angry with God, right? So either they are angry towards the other person, one specific person, they are angry towards the world in general, or they also get angry with Ishvara, and sometimes they get angry with themselves. They keep putting a lot of pressure on themselves and keep telling themselves, you can't do it, you are a failure. We give ourselves these messages, which makes our, which really costs us our tranquility and our peace of mind, and our stress levels really go up. So, kamat krodhaha abhijayate. Why? Because if that object is so important for you, you cannot manage not having it, right? And it turns into anger. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. Krodhat bhavati sammoha means, as that mind is totally captured by anger, all the lovely things that you have learned, be kind, be peaceful, be objective, right? Don't jump to conclusions. All these amazing things that and also others have told you, right? They don't, they are not available to you anymore. That is called sammoha. The minute anger takes place, all the values that we have cultivated over the years, and all the wise ways of thinking that we have tried to develop, none of it is available. The mind gets completely derailed, and it goes with that force of that anger. So, krodha bhavati sammoha, delusion. Sammoha, moha means delusion. The mind is completely deluded. It starts acting in one way, and all the wisdom that you have gained over the years, nothing is available. Sammohat smriti vibhramaha. So as it enters that deluded state, then there is a memory loss, right? So they both, it gets completely, completely focused on that anger related thoughts, and the memory is gone. Smriti bhamshat buddhi nashaha. So as all that you have learned, and all the effort that you have made towards your self development is no longer available to you, what happens? What guides your buddhi is just that anger. Buddhi nashaha. Buddhi nashaha means now the buddhi is the place where decisions are made. So if the anger is looming large, and all the values are relegated, right, to in the background, and nothing is available to you, how are decisions going to be made? So the decisions are going to be made by what occupies the mind, which is anger. So buddhi nashat pranashyati. So your decisions are guided by, the power of anger. And that means that the decision will not be appropriate, And if the decision is not appropriate, then what happens is, the result is definitely not going to be appropriate either. So now when when actions are not appropriate, and when the results come again further not as you expected, then again the second round of superimposition starts. So this is how we all get entangled, and we get highly stressed, and we get totally caught in our own whirlpool of thinking, and we keep attributing all of this not to our thinking. We keep thinking that the problem is with outside world, and then we don't know how to get out, right? So this is the situation that we are in, and this is where now what's the solution? So solution is Lord Krishna talks about this incredible way of living, which is what we call living a life of karma yoga. Living a life of karma yoga is a very, very potent way of freeing yourself from stress and all these issues, which are, emotional baggages, internal processing inaccuracies, and wrong choices, everything. There is a gamut of things which happens, which entangles our life. And what Karma Yoga does is very intelligently frees us from these multiple problems. And how does it free us from these multiple problems? If you really think about it, right, there are two places where all these problems occur. One is when you make choices, right? If your choices are driven by raga and dvesha and by the pressures of raga and dvesha, what happens is we lose track of dharma, right? So if I absolutely have to have this object for my well-being, then I start finding shortcuts. Then what dharma? Am I cheating somebody? Am I dishonest? Am I lying? All of this is relegated to a secondary place. There is that's that understanding we all have, but we don't use it because the pressure of raga and dvesha is so large. So what Lord Krishna talks about, what is life of karma yoga. So I will talk about 2 or 3 verses which talk about karma yoga. So one is that everybody knows very well, and that is कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भूः मा ते सङ्गोत्स्व कर्मणि. So here, what is important, what Lord Krishna highlights is that when a situation arises, before you begin to respond to that situation, there needs to be a clarity about where do I have a choice and where do I not have a choice. So here, karmani eva adhikaraha te. With reference to action, you have a choice. So what does it mean? We all have what we call free will, the capacity to choose. Free will doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want. It means when a situation arises, we all have capacity to choose, and that capacity to choose is something, any situation, right? You can always decide your response to that situation. That is your choice. So karmani eva adhikaraste. Or you can it's not that every time you only respond to a situation. You can have your own goals. You can have your own, vision, and you can use your actions to accomplish whatever you want. You're not just responding to situations. You're also planning, setting goals. You're moving ahead, and all that. For all of that, you're using your faculty of choice. Right? So that karmani eva adhikaraste, you can make decisions. That is your prerogative. Ma phaleshu kadachana. You can perform an action, but you cannot choose the result. Now, one thing that we have to be little careful, because very often people say that Lord Krishna is actually giving an advice, don't worry about result. Here, it's a statement of fact. What is a statement of fact? He just says what you have a choice over and what you don't have choice over. It's not an advice on part of Lord Krishna. So what if the results were in your hand, right? If you had choice over result of the action, everything will happen your way, right? Because you have a choice. You can choose whatever you want, and that will happen. So that means, and it is our experience, all of us know that not everything happens our way. So what does it mean? We do not choose. It's not Lord Krishna, not that Lord Krishna is saying, leave the results to me. It's like you can't choose. That's a fact. So what does it mean? Now, why is it important to know what you can have a choice over and what you cannot? Because lot of time, if you are not clear about that, lot of our effort goes in what? Controlling the result over which you have no control. And as things don't happen your way, you get completely ruffled and you lose your center and your mind goes off, and all everything gets derailed. So this is why you have to make an effort where you have capacity to make a difference. So that means that is the first clarity that one must have, which will actually reduce your stress levels completely. Because instead of trying to control things over which you have no control, where you have capacity to make a difference, you concentrate on that. That clarity will focus, where do you put effort, and don't waste your energy on things which are not in your hand in the first place. So that is the one verse. Now, if you have faculty of choice, then it has to be then also guided by dharma. Because what happens, as we have seen in the previous example, is very often it is, even if we know what is the right thing to do, we have pressures of raga and dvesha, which do not allow us to follow dharma completely. We justify to ourselves and said, oh, if you're totally honest and if you are doing everything 100%, you can't get ahead in life. Look at these people, or everybody is tweaking little bit here and there, only then you can go ahead. Otherwise, you are a simpleton. You are just going to lose out on things. So this is how we justify. So what we do is, do not we go with the pressure of our the raga and dvesha, and we little bit sometimes partially, sometimes completely, it depends on the situation, completely or partially disregard dharma, and we cannot, and we justify it. Now, we think, suppose you get what you want by tweaking a little bit, you think that you emerged as a winner, right? But the whole Vedanta is saying that this dharma is not just something that you can choose not to follow, because, a law of dharma and law of karma are all connected. A situation that calls for an appropriate response, and you are given the capacity to assess the situations objectively. If your internal processing is not erroneous, there is a certain clarity, that everybody enjoys, but we do not listen to our even conscience, and we go along with our raga and dvesha. But what happens is dharma, since it is not your choice, it is part of Ishvara's order. If you transgress dharma, it leaves a certain mark on you. What is the first mark that it leaves? right? So the first mark it leaves is guilt. So you feel, even if you haven't admitted to anybody else and you haven't even been caught, right? The fact that you did something which was inappropriate, you knew it, right? And what will it do for you? There is a first feedback that the universe gives, and that is guilt. So you feel guilty. Now, the second is there is this fear that may come as to what if somebody finds out that I have done something which is inappropriate. Third, you lose your self-esteem because you know this is not the right thing to do, but you ended up doing it. So then you lose your little part of your self-esteem because you couldn't do the right thing. The fourth the problem with that is that you begin, if you can do things which are little tweaking dharma, then others can also do it. So you become suspicious. You become suspicious towards others. There is a lack of trust. You cannot trust anyone. And finally, according to our Shastra, right, if you don't do the appropriate thing, there are not only immediate consequences in form of guilt and fear, but there is long-term consequence. This is what we say, punya and papa. It's carried forward. It's carried forward, and it results. What is punya? It is, it's a long unseen result of any appropriate or noble action that you have done. But that is unseen for you. You don't know when it will fructify, but it will fructify. So there is a law out there. So karma and dharma are both related. They are related. And they are two sides of one coin, and they are part of Ishvara's order. So you can't say, I will do what I want. Just like you cannot say, oh, I don't care about gravity. Just as gravity is a law, there is a genetic law, there is biological law. Similarly, there is law of dharma and law of karma. You can't overlook that, and you cannot get away from it completely. So this is why what happens is a lot of your stress comes from first, right? Going along with your raga and dvesha and all the inaccuracies and all the pressure that it has created in you. But secondly, right, when you make a choice, and if it is not in keeping with dharma, there are additional stresses of what guilt, of anger, fear, of low self-esteem, of non-trusting. So now imagine what you are doing to yourself. You may get what you want by tweaking dharma, but what are you doing to your internal life? What are you doing? And suppose that again you have to pay for it in some form or the other. It's a bad bargain. So what is karma yoga? Karma yoga is in any given situation, right? First seeing that I have a choice. Where do I have a choice? Where I don't have a choice, you do have a choice with reference to the, your actions, and make sure that your actions are not guided by your raga dvesha, pressures of your raga dvesha, but you consider dharma. Right? So that way, what do you avoid? You avoid a lot of mental afflictions. So people may think that, suppose you earned a lot of money, people may think that, oh, you got away by being dishonest, but people don't know what is going on in your mind and all the conflicts. And you yourself may not know, and you may not be able to connect that there is, this is an outcome of that. If your mind, if you can't sleep, you just tell yourself, oh, let me take sleeping pills. But you don't think about, what is happening in your mind. Why is your mind so agitated? Why it is not able to relax? And why is it not tranquil? Because, there are all the errors in your judgment that, create this inability to relax. So this is where Lord Krishna if you're living a life of karma yoga, nothing is happening just mechanically. You're aware, you know what's going on. And this is what we say, that with reference to actions. With reference to action, you have a choice where you bring dharma into equation and not just go by the pressures of your raga dvesha. Now, there is a second place where we all struggle. And what is that second? That suppose you followed dharma and you were expecting that, now that you have followed dharma, everything has to happen, according to how you wish. And if things do not happen according to how you wanted, again, you enter into what? This, again, the second round of disappointments and projecting on people and projecting on the world. So when results come, so what is who is a karma yogi? So that is explained in verse number 48. Look at this. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. What does it mean? So siddhi and asiddhi. So things may happen your way or things may not happen your way. Samatvam yoga uchyate. There is a certain composure. You don't act, you don't get into this reaction and anger and disappointment and blaming yourself and blaming others. There is a certain composure. There is a certain centeredness that you don't lose. How do you not lose that centeredness? If things did not happen your way, how would you not lose the centeredness? Not because you're trying to control your emotions and you are trying to tell yourself, it doesn't matter, I have to have center. It is because of the understanding. What is the understanding? That laws do not make a mistake. Right. So just as, suppose there is a law of gravity, because of which you dropped a glass, which was your favorite glass, and you broke it. Is it the law of gravity which is to be blamed? Can you be angry with law of gravity and can you blame that life is unfair? Well, law of gravity has to do its job. Similarly, law of dharma and karma are impartial. Right? They don't look at, oh, this is a good person. Let this person go. That is a bad person. Let me punish that. There is no such thing. Laws are impartial. They are unbiased and they are set up by the Ishvara. So what does it mean? When you understand that laws do not make a mistake. So what happens is, instead of wasting your energy on blaming somebody and being disappointed and being dissatisfied, you now use this mental space for figuring out what next. How can I? Because karmani eva adhikaraste. That's where you have a choice. The results come according to the laws, and the laws are not just linear. It's you did this and therefore you have to get that, because the laws have existed with from along with the creation, the laws came. So they are there for millennia, and you don't have all the information of the past. So laws not only take into account your immediate actions, but they also take into account your past actions. And the world is all interconnected and interrelated. So it's not that it's only you, but all the others' actions, and there is a web. There is a web of cause and effect, which is unfathomable by a human mind. And we are all interconnected and interrelated and interdependent. So there is a vast network. And that vast network is like these algorithms at some super sophisticated level, which do not make mistakes, right? Because this is Ishvara's laws. And therefore, instead of complaining and projecting on the world or projecting on yourself, what you do is that mind is now used in problem solving. Problem solving means, okay, that has happened. Now what? What can I do now? Right? And how, and whatever that response is that you have, when it doesn't come from an angry person, when it comes from a person who understands that the world, the universe is governed by the laws of Ishvara, which are infallible, and I have only choice over actions, then what? That person, and in that choice, I cannot disregard dharma, because I can't be a winner if I do not follow dharma. Then that is going to be a composed choice. If it is going to be a composed choice, what happens is your stress levels will also go down, because you know deep inside that that response is coming from a person who's mature, who is thoughtful, who is not just impulsive, who is not creating many errors in one's thinking and getting carried away. So that is what is Karma Yogi. And as you begin to live your life like that, so Karma Yogi in a religious language, what it means is begins to take the result, even if they are not really as one wanted, as prasada coming from Ishvara. So this idea is explained in verse number 65, chapter 2. Beautiful verse, right? That when your attitude towards the result of the action changes, as understanding that they're coming from the laws of karma and laws of Ishvara, then what happens is, look at this. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhir paryavatishtate. So anything comes which comes from Ishvara, we have a technical word for it. And what is that? Anything that comes from Ishvara is prasad. So that's why when we go to temple, right, and we receive, suppose, some sweet, even if we are diabetic, we'll have little bit sweet because it is prasad. So it's no longer an object, it's coming from Ishvara. Now, if we understand that the whole universe is pervaded by Ishvara's laws, which are infallible in nature, any result which comes to me is prasada, whether I like it or I do not like it. It is not, there is no bias there. There is no, unfairness there. There is a certain the working of things, over which is infallible in nature. Then what happens is that I don't react, and I take it with certain, with certain graciousness. That doesn't mean I don't do the next thing, right? Of course, only when I do not react, my mind is free to respond and to think about, what do I do next? And, it enters into problem solving mode. So, and as you do that, what Lord Krishna says here is what? Prasanna chetaso hyashavu. So, what you gift yourself is prasanna cheta. What is cheerfulness? Cheerfulness because there are no reactions. So when you follow dharma, there are no conflicts, there is no guilt, you have avoided fear, you have avoided being suspicious. When you receive the result as coming from prasada, you have avoided anger, you have avoided delusion, you have avoided, that your buddhi is completely forgetting all your values, and now it is just doing things which are coming from the pressure of those emotions. You have avoided all of that. It is incredible. And as you have avoided everything, what kind of mind you're going to have? Prasanna Cheta. Prasanna Cheta means you are going to be cheerful. You are going to be cheerful. And what? Buddhihi paryavatishtate. The buddhi begins to be, your buddhi, the faculty of thinking, the faculty where you make choices, is now composed. It is not stressed out. It is not ruled by pressures of raga dvesha. It's not ruled by anger. It is not ruled by your deluded ways of thinking, erroneous ways of thinking. So you gift yourself a cheerful life, stress-free life, and connected to Ishvara, and you evolve, and you are able to, as you do not lose your composure and you're able to respond to challenging situations intelligently, you turn challenges into opportunities. Opportunities because you are given intelligence to think about things and move forward in life, and you begin to move forward. And what happens is, even if there are some small stresses in life, if you don't lose your center and if your buddhi is intact, you're able to address things, right, without getting totally off center or overwhelmed. So this is what we call evolution of a person. And as that first level happens, which is you are able to meet with day-to-day challenges without getting stressed. The second level of evolution happens. And I have 3 minutes, so I'm just going to do one last verse. I'm going to and that is a second level. The mind, when it is not turbulent, when it is not stressed out, when it is able to manage emotions, when it has certain commitment to dharma, then that mind has second level of growth. And that is explained in chapter 12, verse number 13. And I'm just going to read it. Adveshta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankaraha samadukha sukhakshami. So as those the turbulent thoughts are taken care of, the first level, then over a period of time you become compassionate, you become caring, right? You reach out, you begin to see your connection with everything. You're not just a small human being, you expand. And that is the second level, right? Second level, the first, this inner house has to be in order. Your stresses have to go down. The composure has to come. And then the second is expansion. And that is very much needed. And when that happens, then, the buddhi and the mind, antakarna, that is called antakarna shuddhi. And as that mind is tranquil and expanded and a kind person, and you become a compassionate human being and non-reactive person and accommodative towards others and understanding Ishvara's the presence in and through everything, then you are ready for the final knowledge. And final knowledge is you and Ishvara are one, Advaita. And that is the culmination of your journey. And that is what, once that reality is known, there is no stress whatsoever because there is no duality. So there is no, that's a final, the final, because of paramarthika, as your mind begins to abide in that final truth, obviously there is no stress. So initially you have to take steps to deal with your stress as an individual, grow as an individual, and later on, you become, with that mind, you get to know the reality, and then there is no question of stress. So this is how Vedanta is so profound. It actually addresses stress at both levels, and that's why it is complete. It is not only talking about the final realities, not only talking at a relative level. It has both, and that's why it makes it very powerful and very profound. So with this, it's exactly it. So I end my talk. Thank you.
Namaste. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you very much. I would say that it was lucid most explanation of 3-4 verses which I know from either Viveka Chudamani or Bhagavad Gita. It's fourfold explanation of stress, like fourfold explanation of bandha question. Ko bandha, kathamesha agataha, katham pratisthasya, katham vimokshaha. So if we replace the word stress to bandha, you explained in a lucid language all these 4 aspects of bandha. Ko stresa, kathamesha agataha, katham pratisthasya, katham vimoksha. Using the fourfold disciplines of Bhagavad Gita, Phalasakti Rahitya, Kartrutva Abhiman Rahitya, Asanga Rahitya, and Samarpan Yuktatva. So it was beautiful, beautiful. I salute you once again. One more verse I remember from Anubhuti Prakasha is Ananda Hetoho Bhayyaha Vishayaha Iti Vibhramat Kankshayante Bahirbhayya Vishayan Pranino Khilaha Abhishta Vishe Labdhe Dhi Pratyavritya Rudgatam Brahmanandam Kshanam Bhutva Bhayyan Kamayate Punaha. Ananta Hetoho Bhayyaha Vishayaha. So externalities, stress is coming from externalities is a Vibram. So you explained it in a very nice way, lucid way. Thank you very much. It was really a good evening spent for me. Thank you. Thank you, viewers, once again.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming.